Så välkomna hit. Nu är det dags för Intune Suite from add-ons to platform unlock the full value. Det var en lång titel, Niklas. Oh, and we're doing it in English as well.
Yes.
Sorry, I forgot. So let's go back to English. Sorry. So it's a long title. That's how it is on a Monday after a Swedish victory in the World Championship in soccer in the morning. So. And welcome everyone. I brought Niklas with me to do this webinar for us today, where we'll talk about Intune Suite and how we can get the full value out of it. I think a lot of that is soft information as well and soft processes and more around how way of working that we need to take account to. But we'll talk about that as well. My name is Jörgen Nilsson. I'm in the secure client team at Onevinn, and with me I have Niklas. Do you want to say something, Niklas, about yourself maybe?
No, hello and welcome. That's basically it. Good to have you with. And yeah, I'm part of the same team here as Jörgen, working with Intune and the suite for quite some years now, Jörgen.
Yeah, it's not like it's big news, but there are some news. That's why we're doing this. So let's have a look at it. So licensing, the most fun thing in the world. What is changing? And that's basically the reason why we're doing this as well. We'll have a look at Cloud PKI and have a look at enterprise privilege management, remote help, and then advanced endpoint analytics as well. So we can discuss and go through what we think is the most valuable things with these solutions and what to do and what not to do, and why we should do it as well. But let's start with the licensing things, right? So this is what's happening. That's why we also dusting this off a topic off as well to remind everyone what you actually get soon, depending on which license SKU you're in. So if you have Microsoft 365 E3, you will actually get Intune Remote Help and Advanced Analytics included sometime during Q3 this year. And if you have E5, you will also get Cloud PKI, Enterprise App Management, and Intune Endpoint Privilege Management as well. And this is great news because some of these tools actually, I mean, there are some gaps if we compare to what the functionality we had on premise. That's actually filled by device query, which is in advanced endpoint analytics. We had remote help in configuration manager. Now we get remote help in Intune as long as we have E3. So it kind of fills the gaps and maybe some organizations get an easier move to the cloud as well. But some customers have F3 licenses. What do we do then? Well, lucky for you, there's a Intune Remote Help for frontline workers and the Microsoft Cloud PKI for frontline workers as well, license that we can actually add and complement our licenses if we mix and match licenses. For advanced endpoint analytics, it's more like, so, I mean, you're supposed to have your own machine, right? I mean, an F license, then you don't have a known machine, you have a shared device, right? So it's a different license topic as well. But those two are available at least for you. They're really cheap as well. And if we go on, so how will this change happen? So it's not like you will wake up on the 1st of July and you will have access to all of these features. You will get the notification in Admin Center 30 days in advance before the change may take effect. And there's no action required once it's effected, more than actually using the features, but it will be there by then. So there's nothing else to do, right? So let's start with a look at Cloud PKI, Niklas. What do we get and how can we benefit from the new license model we get as well, or license included in for us?
Yeah, so Cloud PKI, so certificates, our favorite topic on a Monday, right? But it's actually pretty nice because once we start moving our workloads and devices and endpoints to Intune and a more cloud-based mindset, it's pretty nice to be able to deliver and issue certificates from a SaaS or cloud solution as well. because nothing is, without without security risks, of course. So when it comes to NDIS and the Intune certificate connector and SCEP profiles, the main solution most companies have been using for a long time to deliver certificates to our Intune managed clients, be it Windows, Android, or any other operating system for that matter, from our on-premise AD certificate authorities. The end service could actually be hardened pretty heavily, but if we don't do that, then that's a security risk in itself. So the risk perspective here is way better, in my opinion, to use Cloud PKI, at least for what's managed from the cloud to our Intune devices. So it's an easier setup as well. One thing that I would like to point out is that this is not a Radius server. So that's a pretty common misconception. So when it comes to delivering and issuing certificates, Cloud PKI will be your friend. It will deliver for you. However, it will not do the Radius part, as in authenticating to VPN and Wi-Fi, which is the most common use case for these certificates. So we still need that in with something else outside of the Cloud PKI, there are some really good third-party Radius solutions out there. There are some SaaS solutions as well, and the more advanced network equipment, such as Cisco ICE, do actually deliver really nice capabilities for Radius as well, which I think makes a lot of sense to use for our authentication to on-premise VPN and Wi-Fi, or even network cable, because we could do that kind of stuff as well. It does require an Intune enrolled device. It does support Entra ID only and hybrid join devices. And we do see a lot of companies, when they are on hybrid, they keep doing SCEP and NDES or PKCS as well, of course, if that's what we're doing currently. And for the new ones, once we transition over to Intune only devices, it's more common to use Cloud PKI only, just because of it's a nice red line to draw between on-premise and cloud as well. If we really want to, we could bring our own CA into Cloud PKI if we want to keep that chain of trust and so on and so forth. But if we do that, when we lay the design, it's important to keep in mind that if we bring our own CA, it's just going to be the certificate part, the chain of trust. The certificate itself will still be issued from Cloud PKI and not from on-premise. It's a two-tier model here. So it's a root and issuing CA, and of course the third one would be your own CA if you want to bring that chain of trust, if that makes sense to your needs. And a really common thing here as well is that Cloud PKI is not configured by Intune administrators, but it's part of the Intune licensing stack, and also, or was at least until July 1st here. But usually we see security teams manage these infrastructure features. So that's when Microsoft did a good job in giving us the RBAC to create admin roles specifically for Cloud PKI, so that we can invite the security team to manage this for us, or at least be able to look at those reports and so on and so forth when that makes sense. We do have some supported platforms here for Windows, Android, iOS, and iPad and Mac. So that should be basically the full stack here. Maybe Linux at some point, that would be great as well, I guess, but not for now at least. Yeah, some news here. Cloud PKI has been around for being tasked with renew and issuing CA, that's subordinate CA, at some point. Back in the days, this could happen, but it was quite a hazard. It was a lot of moving part. Even though it's a SaaS solution, we had to do some manual stuff here, such as create a new issuing CA, update all SCEP profiles with that new information from the new issuing CA, and repoint deployment and so on and so forth. But those days are gone, luckily, because this could lead us into some issues. And if we have a certificate issue and we use certificate to authenticate to our network, and all of a sudden something is happening in a bad way with our certificates, so we are no longer able to connect to our network. How do we push the news and correct settings, right? Because we are disconnected from the network. So how do we manage that? So it could be pretty ugly here. But with the new in-place renewal of the issuing CA, we could actually start pretty early to create a staging CA, kind of in parallel into what is already in production. We could do a staged CA and test and make sure it delivers and issues certificates in the correct way. And then with just a click of a button, we can put that one into production instead. And there is basically very little job to be done for us. And with that, the risk will be minimized as well. So that's a really nice addition from a feature perspective here for Cloud PKI, in my opinion.
Niklas, can you please maybe shut off your camera, because your audio is breaking up now and then.
My camera? Yeah. I will turn off my camera. I didn't realize it was on. Alrighty, so let's see. Hopefully it's going to look better. Otherwise, let me know, Jürgen, and I will try to fix it. So we have reported when we are in the Intune portal, we'll find it on the tenant administration blade. And from here we can actually, pretty nice little dashboard here. If we've been working with certificate at some point, we know about this one already, kind of the same look and feel we have with our on-premise CA implementations. But we can, as you can see, it's pretty nice here from whenever a device is reinstalled. If we just into the bottom here, we can see the same device name, RE-323. We have one revoked and one active. So it's going to revoke that old certificate when the device is reinstalled for us, and it's going to, it does a lot of that work for us automatically. And of course, it's going to deliver and issue a new certificate once the device is up and running again. I would say the reporting part here is pretty nice. It's useful, and you'll find it in the tenant administration blade of Intune portal. And with that, I would hand it over to you, Jürgen, to speak a little bit about the endpoint privilege management.
Of course. So thank you, Niklas. So endpoint privilege management, one of the things that I think most people are excited about when it comes to the new licenses, if you have E5 in this case, going forward. So what can we do, right? So the requirements are that we're on a supported version of Windows 11. Windows 10, it still works. It's Entra join, hybrid join, we know this, right? Some things we have run into is when you use SSL inspection or package inspection, same here as with a lot of other of the URLs Intune uses and Windows 365, or actually all Microsoft services cannot be inspected, because then Microsoft thinks someone tampered with the traffic, so it will not work, right? So you need to follow the instructions if you use anything for package inspection or SSL inspection out there. Azure Virtual Desktop single session is supported now since a couple of months back. Multi-session is not, though, and workplace join devices is not supported. So that's also something to be aware of, depending on which scenario you want to solve in your environment. So what's the features we have? Well, basically it's all about elevating the user to administrative process. You can install what you need to do or run what you need to do, right? So the options we have when creating a rule is either require support approval, where an approval request will be sent to the Intune portal, or an automatically elevate the file, or we can ask for business justification, or we can ask for authentication as well. We also have a different setting called elevate users with user credentials. So EPM uses a virtual account, which can be a challenge, but it's also a good thing from a support functionality, right? So if we look at support approval, so if I request an approval to install an application, in this case MMC, then it will actually just send the approval request to the Intune portal, and you will approve it there. The end user, it takes around maybe under 10 seconds for the approval to actually be visible in the portal, and it takes about under 10 seconds after approval that the end user is notified as well. Note that if you don't approve the request, the end user is not notified that it's not approved. You need to tell them that your own way, right? So that's what we need as well. So that's what we need to know, that's how it works, right? But it's really fast. When this feature was announced, it wasn't that fast. Now it is really fast, so it is an option. The downside is when the end user requests for an elevation, and we go to the portal instead. And we go to, so all the elevations we do will be visible under admin tasks. And here we have all the elevations there are. So here we can see what elevations we already did, and if they were approved or if they expired or if they were rejected. But there's no notification in here. So if you use this feature and the end user, so the challenge I have with this is that there's no Intune admin that will always be available. So one way of using that the approval flow is actually to be in contact with service desk, and they can approve it when you need it, for example, because I don't think end users will request an approval and then wait 3 hours. That's not how we work during our workday. If I need the permissions, I need it, right? So there's no notification. You can build your own notification on top of Graph and build your own logic app workflow, whatever you want. But it's still, someone needs to be available to approve it if that's supposed to work in a good way. Otherwise, we're blocking users, right? So the whole thing that Microsoft is putting a big effort into this is to remove all the blockers. So if we follow many of the compliance regulations we're under now, they all dictate that you're not allowed to be an unmanaged local admin. And they have different naming for it, and that's the biggest deal we have, right? So and that's also something we need to take into account, that we need to fulfill our compliance requirements. So when we do this, we need to make sure that we can replace the functionality for the end user without making them unproductive. That's the whole idea with this product, right? So they can still be productive. The virtual account, as we said, uses a temporary profile, temporary account name with an $. It's been like that since they built it. That's really good. We have an option now as well to actually elevate the real signed in user, which solves some of the cases for us. But still, it's still this is still better, of course, right? Because then your token has never been elevated as well. So that's the virtual account, and this means that we need to we need to teach our end users how to use this feature. So here I've right-clicked on Python and said I want to install it. By default, it actually defaults to my end user profile, but it still requires me to be a local admin, or you can choose to be. So that's also a question. How do we want this to work, right? In this case, there is no profile for that user, so it won't work to install it there, as it's the virtual account, right? So we need to teach our users to always select administrative privileges and also customize the installation in this case. And then select this option up here, and then the path where it's installed will be automatically changed as well. So this is different from all the installers we have. Different installers, different UIs, different questions, different challenges. But the important thing is that we teach our end users to install it for all users. And that's always a good idea, because then we can patch it using a third-party patching tool as well. If they install it in the end user profile, we have no way of going back and updating it in an easy way. It's much more challenging. So we actually want them to do it like this instead. So it's perfect end user training for those, say, developers that need permissions to install stuff on their machines, right? If I just launch that file from internet immediately when I downloaded it, it will actually say that something went wrong. I'm unable to elevate this app because it came from internet. So you need to remove the mark of the web on the file so it actually can be elevated. Again, we need to teach our users. We need to teach our users if they're supposed to do this by themselves, right? So let's see if we can get the support approval running. So if I take my command prompt in this case, I take open file location, because as you see here, I don't have the integration in this view. So I need to take open file location. So I'm actually in Explorer instead. Then I get run with elevated access as an option. And then I can say, okay, enter business justification, need for demo. And then it will verify that I actually am allowed to do this. And then it will say, okay, so your request is sent. Then we'll go back here, and then we'll can give it 4 seconds more, right? And then we take refresh. And there it is. So that's my new request coming in. So that's really fast if you're on the phone with the end user, for example. The good thing here is that I can say now that, okay, so I want to add this as a reusable setting. So I can use the certificate in there, and I can use everything in there. And I can use also, the same goes here, I can create a file with these details as well, and saying that the next time the end user wants to elevate CMD, I don't really care. Say automatic, or say that it's user confirmed, and that you're allowed to elevate child process as well, and then you can see how you want it to do, right? And then it will create a rule for me which I can reuse. So here we have all the information we actually want in here to do this work. So it's actually a good thing. We also get this in the reports, but it's a good thing of doing maybe elevation request. And then down here we say the reason why we want it, right? And then we'll kind of quickly go back, and then hopefully we'll get the notification within a couple of seconds that it's elevated. So it's definitely a usable feature now when it's that fast. So that's how fast it is. So it's only a couple of seconds. So as long as you're on the phone with like service desk or someone, then it's a fine feature to use. Otherwise, it will be a bit more cumbersome to wait, right? But that's really a good feature coming forward, and that's basically, if we're going to use this, or if we're going to use the reports, because what's also really important when we do this is that we actually have reports, right? So for me, one of the strengths in this is actually the reporting back. So I have reports saying, okay, so how many elevations do I have? So this is where we decide how to implement this. One way is to deploy the agent in audit mode only. So it basically reports back all the elevations that people are doing out there. And then we can look at that and say, so, okay, which of these elevations are valid or which are not valid. The problem is that normally there's a lot of files that we don't know why or what they're doing in here, or maybe it's scripts, right? Files that are automatically elevated by the system. So it's kind of hard. So, but we need to decide how are we going to solve the scenario? What are we after? Is it solving that one line of business app that still requires local admin permissions so it actually runs? Or is it to allow a developer to install the developer tools he need? Or is it for an end user to be able to install a printer somewhere? So that's the most important thing. So start with defining our success criteria. What are the scenarios we're trying to solve, and when are they solved, right? And they're solved when all the local admins are gone, but everyone can still do their job without any impact. User training, same here as I showed. The run as elevated is not available everywhere in the context menu. You need to be in the file explorer. The virtual account, you need to know that it exists and you need to train your end users. Otherwise, that will become a big challenge when they elevate, install stuff in the user's profile, and then it's gone. Right? That's a challenge as well, but it's kind of a good thing that it's a virtual account as well. So it's twofold. File download will cause an error when they elevate. And now actually elevation requests work on any device, right? So before it was only a specific device, now it's any device. So before it was only my primary device, now it's all the devices. And we must keep in mind that EPM and Windows Labs has nothing in common at all, actually. And they're solving different scenarios. Developer is a challenge as well, of course, that's sad to say. That depends on what they're developing, what kind of needs they do, what we've seen in the projects we've been running. So if they have a need to actually, debug and test binaries on their device, then it's a big challenge to use the virtual account. It's also a big challenge to use the virtual account if you try to reach some repo or something like that, where you have all the code you're working with, right? So could be a challenge, but we can also, if we look at it, we can also we can take our user here again, actually, and then we'll open. So now we can actually open Elevate Visual Studio in my case. Again, open file location. That's the thing you will do the most. Run with elevated access, and then it will say okay. And then it tells me to sign in again because I need to sign in. And if you're on a Windows 365, it will actually forward your Windows Hello as well. So you don't have to sign in if you've gone passwordless. So now I created a rule that actually elevates Visual Studio, in this case, as my own user. So we can actually get that functionality. To start with, we can see that it says admin up here. So I started it as admin. And if we go down here and say command line and say developer command prompt, we can now see that I'm not the virtual account anymore. It's actually my own token I've elevated. So this is the kind of rules we need to do. But in this case, we need to make a specific rule that you're allowed to elevate Visual Studio as it is. Otherwise, that will not work, right? So we need to point out the certificate or the publisher. File hash is not what we want to do. And then how to elevate it, right? And again, use the kind of best and newly added feature in here, which actually is elevate as current user. So we can sort out most of the scenarios now when we got that little extra feature. That was really good. You can also know that there's a policy setting you can set with group policy or Intune, where you actually can allow an local user on a device to actually update and install components in Visual Studio without being a local admin. So there are hope for our admins as well. So we can get rid of those local admins as well. And with that, we'll move on to advanced analytics, right? So advanced analytics for me has two different audiences. One is like service owners, managers, architects, and also technicians, where you want to have the insights in your end user and experience in the environment. We have anomalies, that's something that sticks out in the environment, but we also have the resource performance where me as a service owner, I can see that, okay, so now we installed so many agents, so all my devices peak at 100% CPU. We have this and this amount of machines with too little memory and going forward. So it's important again to train and help everyone get started with this, because this is not the endpoint admin who sits here and clicks around. It should be more people in there. If you're a big company, use the scoping, so you can actually select, like, say that we delegated all the permissions to UK for all the devices. So then they can see, okay, so how are devices in UK performing? Because I'm responsible for UK. So it's important to actually implement these features and not, oh, cool, we got this cool new thing. Decide how to use it, set goals on how to use it and what you want to achieve, and then roll out your plan on getting it used, right? For troubleshooting enhancements, I called it that, at least. It's for the Intune admin, maybe for security as well, where we can run, I like the enhanced device timeline, but we also have the device query, battery health, where we can see what's going on, right? We talked about anomalies. These are anomalies where an application actually crashes, and how often it is, and when it says it's an emergency and what you should look at, right? So anomalies is a good way of getting things done and starting doing things, and decide on that plan. So what are the two things we need to fix first in our environment? So we keep getting better and better and better and doing a better service for end users, right? So this is a good start. If there is no anomalies, then you can go down to the performance metrics instead, where you actually can see startup performance of devices, which applications are crashing the most time, resource performance, battery health. Why does a device restart? So when we troubleshoot the device, let's take an example. If I'm, let's start with this, right? We can do something called multiple device query. So I can query multiple devices now. This is more of seeing, okay, do I have BitLocker turned on my devices or not? So if we look here, something's fishy with these 5 devices, right? 3 of them are not encrypted and 2 of them are probably paused, right? So we actually get that information in there as well. We can do this for a single device as well. So if I go to device, I can query it. The difference is that this is real time. When I queried it before, it was actually on the inventoried information only. So it's not live. But if I take this option, it will actually go out live to the device and get the information I want, right? And this is good if you try to troubleshoot the certificate that's been expired or whatever you want, right? And you'll get the information pretty fast. You actually also know reach the file system, so you can ask if a specific file is existent on the device. So it's actually very, very useful for troubleshooting. But what I think is the least used feature of this is actually when we go to a device, like say this one. Let's hope it's been turned on. And then we'll go to user experience. where we actually have, so what are the user experience? So if an end user calls service desk and says my machine is really slow, or I have something crashing all the time, then we can actually go in here instead of starting looking in the event logs. We can actually see here, okay, so why? So what startup performance do we have and why? What's taking time, right? So in this case, it took a long time to boot because it installed an update. Then that's fine. We can also see how much memory I used, how much how it peaked, how much disk is RAM as well, how much memory I used and when it peaked. So we can actually see if it's actually running at 100% as well. So this is really, really good. And my favorite, as I said, device timeline. So if an end user calls me and said, oh, my machine is crashing, I have an application that crashed, and maybe we can see that the application crashed over and over and over and over again. And we can see restart, but updates failed to install, for example, or whatever it does when it restarts. So this is a good troubleshooting tool for us as well, where we get the information about that specific device, right? But again, if we're going to be successful and get the most out of Intune Suite or the Intune add-ons we actually get in E3 and E5, we need to teach Service Desk how to use this. Teach them what to expect, help them find a new way of working where we actually use these new features as well. Otherwise, we haven't gained anything. Then we just gain things in a menu in a portal. So we need to train Service Desk, train everyone so they can actually use these new features, right? And the second section I call troubleshooting tools, which we looked at. So here I have an application with error as well. We can actually see which application it is that's errors out. And again, if it does that over and over again, maybe it's time to reinstall it or wipe it instead. Could be, but it could also be worth troubleshooting. So that's also something we need to do. But again, this is useful information for that first diagnose on the machine. Is it worth trying to fix this, or what are we going to do? Device query, as we showed, real time, one device at a time. You get the information from the device immediately. Good way of troubleshooting a single device. And in a zero trust world, we don't have any other way of reaching that device, right? So this is really good to be able to see that and do that without interrupting the end user, because that's also about service quality and productivity, that we don't disturb the end user. Yeah, and device query, as we showed before. So my conclusion of this is this is a great tool both for user experience and troubleshooting. Enhanced timeline and device query is something we need to train on site support, service desk, second line, everyone to use, and start using it in your daily work, right? Combining device query with then remediations. So I can check, okay, so the problem is that this certificate expired. I have a PowerShell script that will fix it and run a remediation and it's fixed. And that could be a sample as well on how we can teach Service Desk to use these new tools as well. So advanced endpoint analytics is actually something we don't talk that much about, but if you actually start using it, train your end users, there's actually big value in there as well. So have a look at it, and as I said, train your end users, not the end users. Train your Service Desk and on-site support. That's important. Otherwise, they won't use it because they don't have time to click around everywhere either. So Niklas, remote help, can that be used today to solve my problems now that I'm moving to the cloud and is used to Configuration Manager?
Hopefully some of them, I would say. But as you have showed us here for the last minutes, I would say that the need for us to remotely connect to a modern device for troubleshooting is becoming less and less. And we have some really nice tools for troubleshooting, device query, and so on and so forth. But when we do have the need to connect, maybe we need to guide the user in a way we can't do by just talking about it over the phone and so on and so forth. We may need to to remotely connect and share, kind of create a remote share, screen share session here. So yeah, the additional features coming to E3 and E5. We have a tool called Remote Help, which is not the same thing as Quick Assist. So I would like to start in this end. Quick Assist doesn't require managed devices. It doesn't require anyone to sign in and prove they are who they tell us to be. There are little to no security to it. So in my opinion, I would say go ahead and uninstall Quick Assist as soon as possible, because it's actually used by threat actors in social engineering attacks. They would call home users. They would call our company employees and ask them to, hey, there just seem to be some kind of issue and error with your device. I'm calling from wherever. Please provide this little string, like a pin code, to connect into Quick Assist, and then the remote session will be enabled, and they can do whatever they want with our devices. Remote Help, on the other hand, does not suffer from this. We need to sign in with our company credentials, both the sharer, as in the end user of a device, and also the helper, which would be most likely be IT tech support, who's trying to help us with solving some kind of a challenge or issue with our devices. And we do hear companies say, no, we don't need remote help because we have a Quick Assist. And yeah, they are not the same thing. There are reasons to look into remote help, definitely. And especially now, if you are on E3 or E5, definitely go ahead and look into remote help. There are some supported platforms here, as you can see on the screen. I'm not going to go through all of them. However, I will spend some time on this one. If we are on AVD, we need to ask the user to, hey, could you go ahead and open up the remote help app on in your session for us to be able to connect. The reason for this is that if we were to use the Intune portal, which is possible, we would send in a session connectivity notification to all users who is sharing the same device, because AVD tend to be multi-session. So each session on a host will actually receive that notification. So and the medicine for that would be to ask the user to open remote help within his or her session, and then you can provide your helper credentials as in the pin code to be able to connect to that session. And of course, we will not be able to restart through through remote help. Remote help will have the restart computer button will be disabled or grayed out on multi-session hosts, because if we were to restart that host, we would restart each session, right? Because the full host would be rebooting. So that's not good. And it comes with some network requirements. We run into this way too often, and network being part of the trouble why we are not able to be successful with remote help in the early piloting phase or in the proof of concept. And this is especially important if we are looking at using Zscaler, Cloudflare, and other network security features out there. We need to make sure that we have them on board to be so that they can provide some port openings and allowing these ports and protocols to be open for remote help to work successfully. Microsoft do update this document and do change some addresses. from time to time. So it's not like a one-off. We still need to look into this. We need to stay updated on any changes. We need to subscribe on these changes so that we can update and change our security features, such as Zscaler, accordingly. Yeah, I did mention that on AVD, we need to use the remote help app to initiate the session. However, there is a desktop app. We can, for example, use Enterprise App Catalog or Enterprise App Management, which is part of the Intune Suite and will be part of the E5 license going forward, to install it on our Windows devices and also keep it updated. It does support, the good old Entra features, such as security features such as conditional access, PIM, require phishing resistant MFA for maybe a couple of devices. Maybe we want to make sure that not everybody is allowed to connect to the CEO or any manager device at will, and so on and so forth. So it does work really well with those Entra signals and those Entra ID security features. Yeah, as you can see on the right side, this is what it looks like. And this is where the misconception comes with, hey, we don't need remote help because we have quick assist. It basically looks exactly the same. It would just be the main difference here would be as you can see, the sign in as the first thing we see in the print screen. That would probably be the main difference between remote help and quick assist. But this is also where where it actually matters. We want to make sure that I am who I say I am, and that whoever is connecting to my device is whoever they say that they are. I probably don't want any external or a bad actor connecting to my device. And so on and so forth. So another thing that is really nice when it comes to remote help, this is not necessarily unique to remote help. There are some third-party remote tools out there that could do the same from within the Intune portal. But as you can see here, I am using the Intune with step 1. I have found my device, the device I would like to connect to. Maybe I have a call with this end user. So what I would click on is remote actions, and I will start begin a remote assistant session. This will create a notification, as you can see as number 2 here, the darker green number 2. This is from the end user perspective. It says, hey, it seems Niklas from niklasalberg.se. This would, of course, be your company name .se or .com. Would like to connect to your device. Do you want to do that? So this is really nice. The notification helps a lot because back in the days we had to use, company portal to do this, but now it's a native cloud Windows notification coming down to our Windows devices. So what the end user would do, he or she would click on Open Remote Help, and then they can allow it. They can allow and decide whether we want to allow a full admin, as in the Niklas in this case scenario would be allowed to kind of do changes, maybe move the mouse pointer and do keyboard strokes as well, or only create a view-only session. No, I just want Niklas to be able to view, and I will do the steering of the mouse and the keyboard. So that's also pretty nice features here. And as you can see here on the number 3, we have a successful remote session, and now we can start troubleshooting or start helping our user accordingly. This is monitored within the Intune portal, so we can always check who connected to which device and stuff like that as well. So, which is pretty nice. It's also possible to identify any rogue connections that were not supposed to happen. If we're not using the app. We can also use the remote help web app. There are some short links, as you can see to the bottom left side here. The helper, which is the IT admin, would go to aka.ms/remote help helper, so RHH. And the sharer, who is the end user who wants to get some support, would go to the same link but without the last H, so aka.ms/RH. So pretty easy to remember once we have been using it for some time. Some things I would like to point out when it comes to the web app is that these are only view only, right? So it's not the full experience, but sometime or maybe even most of the times you can sort it out with a view only session when or if you have a need to. This is also what would be used if you allow within remote help, if you allow connections to unenrolled devices. Maybe a user is using a home device or bring your own device kind of scenario. We could support them through the web app as well, because they wouldn't have the remote help app most likely, but the remote help web app would be sufficient in those cases. And of course, when we do that from a unmanaged device, if we allow it from the remote help session settings, we want to make sure that the end user is signed in, because as the helper, we could also get into some trouble if we don't know who or what we are connecting to, right? So it's kind of a two-way deal here. It does support, the same things here. Conditional access and so on and so forth. You may, however, most likely want to have a different set of conditional access rules for these scenarios, but it's good to know that it works and is supported. The web app is supported for help on Mac OS and Windows, and there's some supported browsers. Most likely we will find one of these browsers are one of those that we are using. Yeah, I think it's a good alternative when needed. It's most likely not going to be our first preference, because the app works better, of course, because you can have the full experience. But it's a pretty nice alternative. And yeah, this is what it would look like as I'm connected here. This is my code, my security code. So I would need to provide this code to the end user I am helping through remote help. And some things from the field here when it comes to remote help, cloud push notifications, the one I showed, which will be visible to notify the end user when we want to do a connection from Intune to use a to remote help session. Sometimes we see that one being blocked. It could be either security hardening on Windows, which could block these. So definitely make sure that's not happening. But it could also be that the user manually put the device into the do not disturb mode, right? So down to the right side, we have the date and time and so on and so forth. If we click on that one, we could set our notifications to block notifications, right? The block notification settings. And when we set that into block, it's called DND, or do not disturb. This will also block, all the company portal notifications, also remote help notifications. So if the user says no notification has been found or seen on my device, just ask if DND is enabled. File transfer does work for easier file transferring. You could do copy and paste from the helper to the sharer in a nice way. However, we would probably want to use something else to move bigger files. Maybe if, let's say, worst case scenario, we want to share like an ISO or something, which could be a 5+ gigabytes worth of data. then we probably want to share a OneDrive link or something to move the bigger data here. But for easier and small stuff, it works great. The unattended connection is not supported on Windows. This is a big ask. Unattended means that we will always need to have an end user approve when we connect to their devices. This is part of the Secure Future initiative from Microsoft. So for Windows, unattended is not supported. However, on Android, for example, we do see that unattended is supported. And then, as I did mention, remote help works really well with RBAC and scope tags and the conditional access. We could require phishing resistant for more before we connect to more sensitive devices or computers. Maybe we want to protect the CEO from some users who are not or IT supports who are not supposed to connect to the CEO. Maybe only third level support is allowed to do that. Then we could set it up with scope tags and RBAC. We could also make sure that the support technicians are only allowed to connect to corresponding sites. So if you work on site 1, only technicians from site 1 will be allowed to connect to those devices to make sure we limit if a support technician credentials are breached, then we want to limit the impact and so on and so forth. We could also use something that's called a device compliance warning, meaning that when we connect to a device which is non-compliant with Intune before the session is fully connected and ongoing, we could get a warning like, hey, this device is actually not compliant, so maybe you don't wanna connect to it. So please be cautious when entering or accessing sensitive information, as the device may be compromised, as you can see here on the print screen down to the right. Kind of just like a FYI. But this also could create some confusions out there. So we want to make sure that we adapt to this. We educate our users, our IT users, IT help desk and so on and so forth, so that they are aware. And the last thing here, if we want to elevate something, so we create a admin, or we create a successful connection through remote help, and we want to elevate, let's say, PowerShell or something, or maybe even use EPM, as we saw Jürgen doing some demos on. Then we want to make sure that our security hardening is not blocking that, and the enable secure credential prompting is something to look for. So if you are running into a scenario when you are not allowed to do UAC elevations, then definitely make sure that enable secure credential prompting is not enabled if that is what you want to do, because that will block it and you will not be allowed to use remote help and elevations. So Jürgen, I guess
perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. So how to make the most of the new licenses? We have like 30 seconds left.
Yep.
As we said, train your end users and decide success criteria, which scenarios you want to solve with Intune Enterprise Privilege Management. And make sure to train them, as we said, and build the rules for developers or what those use cases are. Train service desk to use the new tools. So they can save time and provide a better service. Replace your existing SCEP PFX connectors with Cloud PKI to reduce admin overhead. I mean, just renewing the certificates on the SCEP server is not a fun thing, and it's also a big risk as it's a tier 0 system as well. So it's good to get that out of there. And for the other ones, evaluate the new tools you get included now with any third party use today. Maybe there's some money or something to be saved or changed, so you get the full value of E3 and E5. And with that, we are on time, and we thank you for listening to us for the full hour, actually. And have a
Thank
great
you so
rest of the
much.
day. Yeah, and thank you, Niklas, for helping me out. And have a great day, you too.
Likewise.
Thank you.